as many of you are aware, or some of you may not be aware, there are different pillars of Dragon Claw, and that highlights kind of the areas of self-care that we can all pay attention to. So over my many years of being on a self-development journey, I've been through kind of different programs and things, and many of them have got you trying to focus on where you are now with things, and then focus on where you want to be, and then help you come up with a plan. So basically that's what the overarching point of this session is but the first half will be informational, or if that's even a word, I don't know. But the second half will be really interactive. So I wanted to start off by just revisiting what the purpose of Dragon Claw is. And I'm pretty sure this is almost straight from the website. So it's helping all autoimmune inflammatory disease sufferers and their carers improve the quality of their lives through a better understanding of how to manage their condition. And this presentation really directly focuses on that. And the different Dragon Claw pillars are as follows: sleep, nutrition, movement, mind and body, disease monitoring, and medicine adherence. And really, for the purposes of this presentation, and I think for the future pillars, I've grouped disease monitoring and medicine adherence together, but for the purposes of presenting it, it was a lot easier to have them separate. So why are these important, and why is it important for anyone with one of these conditions? So it's really important for anyone with an autoimmune inflammatory condition or another chronic condition to actively manage the progression of your condition or conditions. You don't have to do this, but it is really, really helpful. So when you are experiencing a chronic condition really of any kind, this may fluctuate over time, which I think anyone with an autoimmune condition has firsthand experience of, and it can be incredibly frustrating. You're also predisposed to complications. Some of these may come from the inflammation that's being created in your body as a result of your condition, some from the medications used to reduce inflammation, and some probably from other things as well. You're also at risk for developing other autoimmune conditions unless the underlying root causes are controlled. And so this can be rather confronting to hear, but I think the whole purpose of this is really to empower us. So these Dragon Claw pillars of self-care have been chosen because these can each identify mechanisms through which you can take action to support your own long-term and short-term health. And this complements the medical treatment that you already receive. So we're not kind of saying, don't go and listen to your medical advisor. That's completely the opposite. Sometimes these have a very narrow focus. Some people have people with a broader focus, but this is really just to add on the top, and you can discuss any of this with the medical practitioners that you see. As we go through this presentation, you'll see that so many of these pillars are actually really heavily interrelated. And so often by working on one, it'll help you support another. So often, for example, if you improve your nutrition, for example, it'll help you improve your sleep. It might help you move your body more easily, etc., etc. So as I've kind of talked about already, the aim of this session is to raise awareness on each of these pillars, to also understand how you are progressing on each pillar and what you want to do to focus on going forwards. And note, this is not an exam. I'm not assessing everyone here on how they're doing with each pillar. This is more time for you to reflect. How are you focusing on each pillar? Are you focusing on just one pillar? Are you focusing heavily on another pillar and completely ignoring another pillar? So therefore, it can help you come up with a plan going forwards. But please be light on the judgment for yourselves. This is an raising awareness session, and to really help you move forwards. And I think we also want to help identify, are there any priority areas for future Dragon Talks that maybe we're not covering or we want to focus on in more specific detail? Let us open up the chat box. So what we're going to do first of all is just go over each pillar. And so this is kind of just take it in sort of time. And we're going to go over each of them in like semi-detail, not really. I'm not an expert on all of them. I'm obviously a functional nutritionist, so I know about nutrition, but this is my thoughts on what each pillar is. If anyone's got anything to add, we can also add this at the end. So first of all, as we go through this, it'll be really good for everyone to reflect on what activities are you doing in each of the different pillars. So it's time to get your pieces of paper out, and what we want you to do is, if you have a portrait piece of paper or notebook, it might be easier, first of all, to turn it sideways, so you have more space along the top. And you want to basically have 6 columns on your piece of paper. The first column will be blank, and then the next columns represent the different pillars for Dragon Claw that we have. So disease monitoring and medicine adherence, nutrition, sleep, movement, and mind and body. So everyone just take a few seconds to write that down. And once you've written out the pillars, you can write in the left-hand column, so your blank column on the first row, what activities am I doing? And then you can stop there, there's nothing else to do. Great, flying in. Okay, we'll keep on going. So what I'm going to do now, as I've said, is go over the different pillars. And so as you hear things that you're perhaps already doing, maybe just jot them under the relevant heading in the table that you have just done. So you can reflect on what are you doing right now in relation to each of the individual pillars. There is a lot of text here, so it's not really that friendly for presentations, but I'm going to read through it so you don't have to worry about reading the slides, and then I'll share the slides later so people can also have an awareness of what each of the pillars are. So disease monitoring and medicine adherence is where we're starting, and these are very, very, very interrelated. And this is how I've been interpreting it. So disease monitoring is about developing a monitoring plan that meets your specific needs and goals. This is likely developed in conjunction with a healthcare professional, but may involve self-monitoring by you or a carer. This will help you monitor and stay informed about your health, manage symptoms more effectively, and ultimately live a better quality of life. This may include having a suitable team of healthcare clinicians and setting up a plan for regular checkups, as well as laboratory tests, imaging studies as required. And I think this is really making sure that everyone has a proactive approach to their care. So really understanding and working with their rheumatologist or whoever to go, okay, what is our plan going forward? So I think everyone on both sides of the fence is really, really, really clear. So, okay, we all have appointments every month for the next 6 months, and then 3 monthly if things settle down. And I think it's just really giving you the comfort of what your care is and really understanding what it is, and also understanding what your specialist thoughts are. Obviously, you might have different people on your team representing different elements, and this may change over time, but it's just about really having a really good plan on how you best managing your autoimmune inflammatory condition, other conditions, or conditions. This also may involve self-monitoring at home through things like symptom diaries, creating summaries of your medical appointments and test results, especially if you have a multifaceted team, and more. And different people in this group I know have great ideas on this. For me personally, I keep a whole spreadsheet of all my different blood results over time, so I can see how things have changed over time, and I'm not relying on people to give them to me when I want them. I actually have them myself. I know I always think I'm going to remember everything, but I find it also really helpful to kind of log my different medical appointments, so I can also symptoms, so you can really remember how things have been 2, 3, 4 years ago compared to how things are now. And I guess you can go to whatever extent you would like, but making sure it really works for you. So medicine adherence is working with a healthcare professional to develop a comprehensive treatment plan with regards to medications that is adhered to by you, and also regularly monitored to understand whether your current treatment suitably manages your symptoms, or does it create side effects and other things. And so it's very closely related, but I think this is really about what medications do you need to take, or it could include supplements and other things as well from other healthcare professionals, but also, are you keeping to the plan? Are you actually really keeping a log of how these affect you, and do they serve you? So the benefits of disease monitoring is faster. If you do this in a really proactive way, it's faster identification of changes in symptoms and prompt treatment to minimize their impact. It'll help you to have prompted treatment to minimize your impact of your condition on daily life, better disease control, make informed treatment decisions, improve communications with healthcare provider, and also peace of mind. Benefits of medicine adherence is improved symptom management, such as pain and inflammation and fatigue, reduce risk of complications related to autoimmune diseases, such as joint damage or organ failure, better overall health and quality of life, reduce hospitalizations by helping to prevent flare-ups, and improve disease control. And I think this is just really enabling, like, what is everyone doing to help make sure they're on the front foot when dealing with their conditions? So number 2, nutrition. Obviously, I'm very biased about this one. So nutrition is fundamental to our overall health, as it provides the body with its building blocks for its structure and its function. So if we don't get the nutrients in through our diet, how is our body going to operate properly? Nutrition can support inflammation management or create inflammation. It can affect our gut health, which is closely related to our immune health, and much more. Working on nutrition may include changes made individually or working with a nutrition and healthcare professional, such as switching to a more whole foods diet and removing processed foods, improving quality and diversity of the foods that you eat, creating and implementing strategies for meal planning and meal preparation, focusing on strategies to support your digestion of food, focusing on strategies to support your blood sugar, and protocols to improve your gut microbiome or overall nutrition using testing such as stool or microbiome tests, food sensitivity tests, hair tissue mineral analysis, and other. So benefits of improving nutrition, and you'll see as we go through, so many of these benefits overlap. Reducing inflammation, improved digestion and gut health, enhance immune function, better symptom management, reduced risk of nutrient deficiencies. And obviously, when we have nutrient deficiencies, our bodies cannot optimally work, improve energy and mood, and better sleep. So on to sleep. As I said, many of them are interrelated. How important getting adequate quality and quantity sleep is for our well-being is increasingly being understood of how important it is. It is especially important when we live with an autoimmune inflammatory disease or other chronic condition, which ironically could in turn make it harder for us to get adequate quality and quantity of sleep. Sleep in our modern society is often compromised due to the prioritization of work, deadlines, or other urgent, and I put urgent tasks because we're perceiving these as urgent over sleep, but actually prioritizing our sleep is very, very, very urgent. No speech marks needed. It's also prioritized socializing and watching our favorite TV shows, and just probably scrolling on the internet, scrolling on Instagram is often prioritized over our good quality sleep. Improving sleep can involve developing healthy sleep habits, such as reducing blue light exposure at night, which affects our melatonin levels, limiting technology before bedtime, which can also be very stimulating as well, having a consistent bedtime, focusing on sleep timing, exposure to natural light in the morning, which can be very helpful for our melatonin production later on in the evening. It can also involve improving your sleep environment, and also exercise, nutrition, and stress management can also really help sleep. So benefits of improving sleep. Again, improved immune function, reduced inflammation, better pain management to help support quality of life, improved mood and cognitive function, better overall health, and lower risk of developing other chronic diseases. Next is movement. So movement is a crucial part of self-care for anyone with an autoinflammatory disease, and it has many short-term and long-term benefits, as does everything else. The suitability of exercise or movement is really dependent on your individual health condition, and this may fluctuate over time, and it is so important to work with a healthcare professional to help determine the best movement plan for your specific needs. And we also have the wonderful Jill, who's run her movement series, which has been really, really, really helpful, I know, for many. This may include recommendations for specific types of exercise, frequency and intensity, as well as modifications to accommodate any limitations that we may have. Examples of movement could include walking, running, swimming, water sports, gym exercises, yoga, Pilates, and the list really just goes on and on. Benefits of focusing on movement: improved physical function, e.g. range of movement and energy, reduced pain and inflammation, better overall health, including lower risk of developing other chronic diseases or related conditions, improved immune function, improved mood and mental health. It helps promote the release of endorphins, which also can be anti-inflammatory, and also better sleep. And finally, we come to mind and body. And mind and body, I think, it's definitely a separate category on its own, but it also includes many of the kind of the nutrition, the sleep, the movement categories that we've also covered. But as I said here, it incorporates work completed through the other pillars, and in addition can involve a variety of activities to support stress, your psychological health, community, and more. And also, probably, I should say, physiological health. It is another area that is extremely important to consider when managing an autoimmune inflammatory disease or other complex health issue, but this is something that can often be overlooked. And this is, for example, like this can sometimes, for me in the past, this is can have been the pillar that has not been operating as well as it could have been. And so you could focus 100% on diet, but if you're not focusing on, say, managing your stress, your changes you're making to your diet may be slightly fruitless because your stress is really overriding the whole situation. So activities that fall into this pillar may include engaging in activities that promote relaxation and reduce stress, such as meditation, deep breathing, or yoga. Taking care of your mental health through activities such as therapy, support groups, or other forms of self-care. Participating in physical or other activities that you enjoy. And this list could be anything. It could be knitting, it could be playing cards, it could be literally anything that you enjoy doing. Spending time in nature. We all, I think, know the profound healing powers that nature can have. Building relationships and community with like-minded individuals, and also putting up boundaries and saying no. Benefits of focusing on mind and body include reduced stress, improved mood, and reduced feelings of depression and anxiety, better sleep, enhanced physical function, and improved overall health in mind or body. Right, so now things are going to get interactive, and perhaps not really interactive with yourself with a bit of paper, and then we can share reflections at the end. But when we've done each section, perhaps if people want to put done in the chat box, and then we know we can move on to the next bit. So I'm not going at the wrong speed. So we already have our bits of paper set up. And so the next thing, well, the first thing to keep on doing if you haven't finished it already is under each pillar, just kind of continue to write down what activities that you have been doing under this pillar. But what I really want everyone to do is to give yourself a rating for each pillar out of 10 to what is your performance. And performance is a bit of a funny word, but what is your rating of yourself for each pillar? And again, I don't really care what your score is, and I don't want you to care what your score is. I just want you to have an honest look at, say, for example, is your disease, are you really good at monitoring your disease progression and working with your health care providers? And that's 10 out of 10, but you say you get 4 hours of sleep a night. And so that's maybe 2 out of 10. And so give yourself a score for each one. Right, so the next part is, where would you like to be? What would you like your score to be out of 10 in the future? And there's a big disclaimer here. So the aim is not necessarily to get to 10 out of 10 for each pillar. That may not be in your interest. You may not want to, or it may not be realistic right now. So where would you like to be for each pillar? So have a reflection on that. Okay, great. So the next question is, by comparing with your now score, what is the gap? So if you take your future score and say it's 6, and say your previous score, your now score was 2, What is the gap? And so write that in, or the difference. Write that in each box. And then perhaps circle the highest or the top two gaps, if that makes sense. So say medicine adherence and disease monitoring has a gap of 1, but sleep has a difference of 5, maybe circle the 5. And then once you've done that, or if you haven't quite finished the previous one, you can keep on doing that. But the next question is, under each pillar, and maybe focus on where you have the bigger scores and the bigger gap, what action would you like to be taking in that area? And these are kind of not the, oh, if I was the perfect person, I would be doing this and doing that, but actually what is realistic for you? If you're going to bed at 1, it's not really realistic to go to bed at 9 tomorrow because it will probably last for maybe one day and then you'll fall off the wagon. So what's realistic for you under each pillar? And if you want more time to do this, you can definitely take these questions away afterwards and have a further reflection again, and you might have some more aha moments as the days go by. So the next question is, what support do you need to be able to put some of these actions into real life? So this could be knowledge, it could be people, it could be as in healthcare professionals, it could be support people to help you keep you accountable, it could be your partner telling you to go to bed at whatever time, a reminder on your phone, for example, to remind you every day to do something. It could be anything, but what support do you need? It could include more love and compassion for yourself again about something as well. And so now you'll have this nice table with your kind of where you are now and where you are in the future in relation to each of the individual pillars. And obviously, if you're going to take action on 5 pillars, that's maybe an awful lot of work. So my next question is, and this is an overarching question, you can come out of your columns and just write this either below or on a separate piece of paper. Which is the most important pillar and action for you to focus on? And write it down. If you were just to focus on one area, what would it be and what action would you be taking? Yeah, and if as one person has started, if you want to write that pillar in the chat box, write that pillar in the chat box, what you're going to be, what is your most important one, we can get a gauge of what that will look like. You've got movement, sleep, nutrition, sleep, mind, body, nutrition, movement, mind and body. So a whole mixture, which is great. I'm a bit worried about, well, I'm not a bit worried if everyone said the same thing, but it's nice to have different things here. And then make sure you've written down what action that you would like to be, what action you would be like to be taking in this particular pillar, and that'll be very specific to you. You don't have to write that in the chat box, that's for your information. Disease monitoring, medicine adherence, great. Mind and body and sleep. If you want to focus on 2, that's absolutely fine to focus on 2, and actually they might work. Mind and body and sleep probably actually work very synergistically together anyway. But what one action would you be doing in relation to that? Once you've done that, what are you going to do to create space to be able to do this action? Do you have to not do something else in your life? For example, you're meeting someone every week for a coffee that you really don't like, so maybe you won't continue to do that anymore to make space for an extra hour of sleep. That's a bit of an extreme example, but do you not have to scroll Instagram or Facebook for an hour to be able to make space for this? But it can be anything. It could be helping you tie it to another habit that you have, setting expectations with someone about something. So next, what are the potential roadblocks that will get in the way of you doing this action? So the whole point of this is roadblocks come up in everything that we do, but how can we help foresee these roadblocks and help mitigate them in advance rather than when they happen? Like, for example, I know that after 4 days of eating really cleanly, I'm going to get really bored with doing this and I'm going to lose motivation, but how could we get around that? Yeah, so someone's put busyness gets in the way of mind and body. So if busyness gets in the way of mind and body, how can you maybe have a weekly or a regular time where you look at your diary and go, what do I have on this week? Do I need to be doing everything that I have in my diary this week so I can actually focus on other things? Or focus on your mind and body activities and put them in the diary first before you put your other things in the diary. Someone's put go to bed by 11 p.m. using an alarm to give me more energy to regularly go to yoga. Yes, so if you want to be doing yoga at say 9 o'clock every morning and your sleep is disrupting you, that's a really great roadblock to a really good thing to foresee. How do you support your sleep? Another thing that I have found really helpful is that on an iPhone in particular, I know you can actually make all of your apps disable after a certain time at night. And so if you want to use them, you have to go basically unlock for 15 minutes. And yes, you can get around it, but it gives that extra bit of an extra stumbling block. Yes, get rid of the TV. I love that. Or put your one thing we're debating. We didn't have a TV for a long period of time, and then we put it back again. And with a new family member arriving, we don't really want to have TV for front and center of our life, but we still want the ability to watch TV. So we're going to put the TV down at the side. And so if you want to watch TV, you can still say watch a film once a week, but you have to actually get the TV out to watch it. So finally, what boundaries can you put in place to support you? And he may have covered this already, but what boundaries can you put in place to support you? Can you have an accountability partner, for example? Could you have a check-in with yourself every week about how you're going with something? Yeah, can you have a calm inbox? And we've obviously done this with this exercise with regards to really one specific action. You're more than welcome to take on more than one specific action, but I think it's really important just to really get deep in with one, but you can go through exactly the same process with more actions if you would like. So that's kind of the end of the interactive bit, but I just wanted to again draw upon what Charmaine was saying about what resources that we have as Dragonclaw already available to you if you want to deep dive more into each pillar. So there may be more we can add to this as we go on, but so far we have the Know Your Numbers and Trends, which, as Charmaine said, is going to be a formal launch of this in May, which is really exciting. So watch this space. We also have our Dragonclaw charity Vimeo page. So this is including lots of the videos of Dragon Talks that we have done retrospectively. So if you want to go back and watch them, make notes, do whatever you like, there is a whole lot of these, including nutrition, movement, sleep, mind and body on there. So go there and have a look. And then we also have our Dragon Talks Facebook group. You can use the QR code. You can scan that code with the photo with a camera on your phone to help go directly into Facebook from there if you have Facebook on your phone. There's also a link here. And I guess here, there's lots of information shared from different articles people find. And I guess also if you have a question, if you want support on a certain area, I'm sure if you put something in there and you don't mind sharing it, people can then comment